Hello and good afternoon. Galen, Vadim, can you hear me?
Absolutely.
Vadim, can you hear me?
Yep. I can hear you.
First of all, I want to say thank you to everybody for joining us. We know we had this set up a few weeks ago. I'm sorry that we had a technical difficulty. We had to reschedule. But on behalf of DocPoint Solutions and Nintex, I'd like to say thank you for attending our No-Code Forms webinar. We try to keep these webinars very brief. We know that your time is important, and we appreciate you taking the time to visit with us today. The format for today is DocPoint will present a little bit of information on our overall company as well as our relationship with Nintex, and then Nintex is going to spend the majority of the time talking about forms and how easy forms can be to use within the SharePoint environment. And then we're also going to be spending a little bit of time at the end to talk about Nintex and InfoPath. And as you've all have heard in recent weeks, Microsoft is going to be discontinuing the support for InfoPath. So many of our customers, both federal and commercial, have asked us about what is the path for Nintex and how are they going to help support their needs in the future. My name is Michael Radigan. I'm the moderator, and I'm the Vice President of Sales for DocPoint Solutions. On the phone with us from Nintex is Galen Rogers, who's the Territory Manager for the Mid-Atlantic region for Nintex, and Vadim Tabakman, who's a Nintex Developer and Support Analyst. We've worked with Nintex for the last 5 years. We consider them to be one of the best partner in the SharePoint space for workflow and forms. As a broad overview, DocPoint Solutions, as many of you know, we're Microsoft Gold certified with a specialization in discovery and training of Microsoft Office and SharePoint solutions. Our expertise relies in the SharePoint and content management space specifically. We have a variety of partners that support Microsoft SharePoint, and in addition to reselling and integrating those products, we support that with professional services and training. All the services we'll talk about today are available on GSA schedule. In 2013, DocPoint was presented with the 2013 Nintex Partner Award, which represents business excellence, and that represents all of the Nintex partners, which at the time was around 400 to 500 in the Americas. We understand the products. We use the products internally. We present those products to our customers using SharePoint, and we've had nothing but success throughout the years. Just a little bit about the DPS service offering as we move through this. DocPoint Solutions provides a variety of services to our customers both from 2010, 2007, and 2013. Many of our customers have asked how Nintex and Forms works in the SharePoint 2010 and 2013 environment. We provide business analysis and intelligence, governance, as well as portal cloud solutions, as well as complete deployment and workflow. Keep going. We're just going to move on. This is a broad SharePoint strategy slide that we wanted to share with you, which kind of represents the way that DocPoint approaches engagements. And this is important because everything that we're going to talk about in the next few minutes around Nintex, both enterprise workflow and forms, all spans off of this particular document. All of our customers need to have a solution design strategy. To the left of the page, you see the business requirements, which represents that blue circle in the middle. So you need to, as a customer, understand, what are your requirements, both from your vision, how do you want to organize, share, search, and manage content. From a governance and compliance standpoint, you need to ask similar questions around the vision, guiding principles, policies, and standards, training and communication, as well as roles and responsibilities. All that needs to roll into a solution design and go all the way through user adoption and testing and training. I think a key here is the way Nintex fits into this. Is Nintex Enterprise Workflow and Forms have provided our customers with a variety of ways to solve critical business problems. As SharePoint evolves from simply a tool that is used for enterprise collaboration and moves more towards an enterprise content management tool, Nintex workflow combined with Nintex Forms become a vital component to that. I'm going to switch it over now to Nintex because I think this is an important to switch over to Galen Rogers. And the reason we're going to switch it over now is we want to spend the majority of our time talking about how Nintex Forms can support your engagements locally, and then allow enough time that we can answer any questions that you may have relative to the product, relative to integration, as well as how Nintex will answer and be able to support your needs as InfoPath does not become supported by Microsoft in the future. So Galen, I'll turn this over to you.
Thank you, Mike. My name is Galen Rogers. I'm the Territory Manager for Nintex for Mid-Atlantic. Also, as Mike had mentioned, we have Vadim Tabakman on the call with us, our Technical Evangelist for the United States and Canada. As you can see on the screen, we are the world leader in SharePoint workflow. Some of you or many of you may already have our workflow product currently in your organizations. We do have over 5 million licensed users and over 5,000 customers that do use Nintex today. As a matter of fact, half of the Fortune 500 companies and many government organizations do use Nintex. It's a proven technology and works very, very well. Mike, you want to go to the next slide? As you can see here, we do try to meet customer requirements. We are now making SharePoint and workflow as mobile as possible. You'll be seeing that today. We will be showing you the Nintex mobile application as well as Forms. Both our Forms and workflow products are tightly integrated, and still, just like workflow, our Forms product is easy for users, but also powerful for developers to do work with those. You'll notice that workflow is still the engine that drives the car, as we are all driving our cars every day in our business and our lives. The engine is very, very important. However, how we interact with that engine is equally as important. Nintex Forms is that interaction. It's the presentation layer of our workflows, and we'll show you how that looks today. Next slide. Also, this is what Forms looks like. This is the 2010 version. Today you'll be seeing the 2013 version. They work exactly the same, though they may look a little different. Quick and easy Forms to design. It is browser-based. It is drag and drop. There is a design UI, very similar to the Nintex Canvas for those who have seen that. You can consume it anywhere on any device. That means that if you have a browser on your mobile device, you get to see that, and there is seamless workflow integration. We'll show you that as well. Next slide, please. Now, this diagram kind of goes a little bit into the differences between InfoPath and Nintex Forms. This is going to be a natural question that many or some of you may ask, which is, now that InfoPath, or I may be using it today, and I have it in certain applications, and now that we've learned that there's a sunset of the InfoPath product, what next? Well, InfoPath was designed to cover basically all those things that are inside that circle: XML documentation, handwriting support, so on and so forth. However, not every organization needs a document as an application, which is what InfoPath really is. It has its own workflow back end on it, and so that does allow for developers to build robust forms. However, what if you want to create forms on the fly, consume them on mobile devices, have touch support? I would believe that most or all of us who are on this call probably have some form of a smart device. Makes it a little bit more difficult to consume those InfoPath forms. However, Nintex Forms, when you look at what it covers, it overlaps quite a lot of what InfoPath offers. However, you do add browser-based designer, touch support, easy for end users to use, consumed by anonymous users. We're going to do that today. We're actually going to create a form on the fly and allow you to bring that up on your smart device or at your desk, whatever you're at, to view those devices, view that on your mobile device and see how you can consume that form. Next slide. So let's see it in action. If you want to go ahead and provide me with the rights to show my desktop, Dan, I can do that.
Should have the
and why don't you let me know when you can see my screen? You should be seeing a SharePoint 2013 environment.
I can see it on our end.
Perfect. Let's just make sure, hopefully everyone on their end can see it. Vadim, you want to confirm that you can see it on your end?
Yep, I can definitely see it.
Perfect.
Okay. We've had a few customers that have sent us a text saying they can see it as well.
Excellent. Everyone is so attentive. I appreciate that. This will be about a 10 to 15-minute demonstration. I'm going to go through just a few minutes of how workflow looks and how it interacts as a foundation of just showing those who have not actually ever seen this, get to see how it kind of works. That's going to be like about 5 minutes, and I'm going to show you what a Nintex form looks like as well as what the Nintex mobile application looks like, because many of you may not have seen that yet. So let's go ahead and just jump into it. I'm going to show you how it looks to submit a workflow using Nintex Workflow in SharePoint 2013 through a list, and we're going to go ahead and go through that process. We'll show you through what's called our leave request or request for time off. Fairly universal. I would believe that just about all of us do get to request for time off at our organizations that we work for. In this scenario, I'm going to be playing the role of Eden Stafford. That's who's logged in as the person as the initiator. I'll also be showing you the perspective from Brett Campbell. You can see here that I have email from Brett Campbell open. And what I do is when I need to ask for some time off, I simply go to my list, I click on a new item, and I start typing away what I need. I'm just going to say that I want Eden leave or some time off. Let's ask for a floating holiday. And let's say that maybe I want tomorrow, Friday the 28th, I want that day off because it's my birthday. It's a little late to do that, but I go ahead and do it anyway. And once I hit save, that starts the workflow. Now, normally you would not see the workflow in action like this. You would actually, it would just happen. But for the sake of our demonstration, I want to show you a little bit about what it looks like behind the scenes. So for those who have never seen workflow, this right here is what it looks like. You have a start point and a stop point to our workflow. You have actions all here in the middle. All these actions are out of the box, that they come with our workflow product. Lines are all drawn for you, and you can see here that we have some decisions to make. Now, as the manager, I'm going to be getting some information from workflow and from SharePoint letting me know what's happening. But first, as the initiator of this workflow, I get a couple notifications once I kick that workflow off. The first thing that happens is that I receive a link or an Office Communicator message that states that my floating holiday request was received, lets me know that things have started. I also will receive an email. I can turn them both off, just use one, whatever works best in my group, but that lets me know it's happening. Very similar to if I was shopping online, for instance, and I bought something and I wanted to make sure that things are happening. That's number one, what happens. As I mentioned before, an email will also be brought in. So as the manager, here I am now opening up another VM, Brett Campbell's inbox. We see here that I have just received an email notification stating that I have a new task. I'm going to zoom in a little bit just to make sure that I have that showing well. And we see here that Workflow has sent Brett Campbell an email asking for a response. Eden Stafford's requesting floating holiday. Here are the dates, and HR reports that he has 80 hours. We are able to pull data into our workflows and present that to our managers who are approving the tasks. That is a web service call that we can do. We can connect to other systems. So that's how we got that information. But it's really important that me as the manager that I know how to approve this workflow. And there's 3 ways to do that. I'm going to show you all 3 today just briefly. The first way is through something called lazy approval. You can see here that I have lazy approval enabled. Some organizations like to call that executive approval or manager approval. This is actually, it's very simple. I simply reply back to the email. I type in yes or no, approve, maybe reject, whatever those keywords are that we've established, and it will move it to the next level in the workflow. Very nice if you have organizations that need someone mobile, or they just simply don't need to go into the workflow and they just want to respond back with an email. So that's the first way. Lazy approval to approve this workflow. Number 2 way to approve it is through the Nintex mobile app. Now, the Nintex mobile app is free. It is available today to anyone who wants to download it. It's available on iOS devices, Windows 8 devices, that would be Windows 8 phone, or on laptops, desktops, and Android soon to be coming. Let me show you what that looks like. I happen to have Nintex Mobile installed on my laptop. I have Windows 8, and this is what it looks like, and I've actually already received a notification. I'm logged in as Brett Campbell in the Nintex Mobile app on my laptop. I've already received the notification. You can see right here, 2/27. I just got it. It's an approve a floating holiday request from SharePoint, and it's asking me to approve Eden Stafford's request. So me as the manager, I have this Nintex mobile app. I downloaded it for free. My organization has workflow and forms installed in SharePoint, and I have now just been able to securely have access to my tasks and all my forms that I would have access to in SharePoint. But I've now gone beyond that if I need that to. My tasks are available to me. I can approve. I can reject that, whatever I need to. When I hit send or save, it's going to go to my outbox and sync with our SharePoint. Now, if I synced up with this and hadn't approved it yet, and let's say that I got offline and I went on a plane and I was traveling, or if I even wanted my forms available to me offline, I have that available through this app. Offline forms, offline tasks. I can submit those things and hit save, attach whatever I need to that, and it will go to my outbox and sync as soon as I'm at the internet. So that's the second way that I can approve workflows is through the Nintex mobile app, free for anybody who wants that. It's available on iOS, Windows 8, and soon to be Android. The third way to actually approve this workflow is to go into SharePoint as the manager. Let me show you what that looks like from that experience of going in as Brett Campbell. And here we are. We've now just entered SharePoint as Brett. We've been presented with a Nintex form. If you remember, when I kicked this off, it gave me a SharePoint form. That SharePoint form is not easy to customize. I can't consume that on a mobile device very well. But this Nintex form that we presented, we specifically designed this so that the end user, the task, the person who's going to be approving the task has the experience, a specific, sophisticated experience of approving this workflow. And it was very easy to create, completely HTML. Everything's very flexible, and we'll show that to you in just a few minutes. From here, I can approve or reject this. Let's just say I approve and say, yes, but please come back, because Eden's very important. I could delegate this task from here if I wanted to. We were actually able to add that to the form, delegation if we'd like. Also, this is where I have all my employee information. You can see that this is live. I actually added, it's my birthday. There's my 80 hours for my web service call. All those things are available to me. Makes it very easy when you need to know more and more information. Also, the last thing we've done is something very, very important to some organizations, visually seeing where that workflow is. We've added a workflow status visual cue that allows you to view which actions are completed, hence the green, as well as yellow, letting us know, hey, you're the manager, you need to make this approval, take action, much like a yellow light. If this were red, it would mean that this was stopped. Let's go ahead and approve that. We click OK, and as the manager, that process continues to go down that road, and I don't have to worry about it any longer. As the initiator, once again, I receive another notification letting me know that my floating holiday request was approved. That means my boss likes me, and they really like this. We have some questions. We'll cover the questions here in just a few minutes. I will absolutely respond to it. I saw someone did bring that up. We'll get to that in just a moment. The last thing is
Hey, Galen, this is Mike, real quick. I just want to bring up to for customers that may have questions. You can submit a question on the chat icon, and you can just submit that so all panelists can see. We do have a question that just came in, Galen, if you can see that. Can Nintex tell how long the workflow process took to approve this and all requests? I'll turn it back over to you. We just wanted to make sure all attendees knew about that, as well as Galen, you and Vadim are seeing these questions as they come in.
Yep, submit your questions through the chat. We'll cover it either during the presentation or at the end. We'll do all of it. Any questions you have, we actually have a couple. John did say we use Apple phones at ICE, so yes, you do. You have the iOS option to download the Nintex app. as well as can Nintex tell how long the workflow process took? Yes, we actually have some reports that can do that. We can either drill in to the specific item and look down at the statistics of it, or we also have reporting dashboards that can tell us every single thing about workflows, any workflow that's in progress, any errored workflows, high-level dashboards that can give you workflow by site, anything you'd like can tell you exactly. It gives you the metrics to measure how well your BPA is working, to take it from business process automation to business process improvement. So yes, we can actually take a look at that. Okay, last thing real quick before we move on to the forms. Notice that we have a shared calendar. The workflow populated that calendar with my time off so that my colleagues know that I will no longer be there. And that's also available to us. Now, let's talk about forms. That's why we're here. I showed you what a form looked like a little bit and how we can use that, but let's talk about how we can interact with our workflows and make a more sophisticated end-user experience, but also maybe address some needs that many organizations which is surrounding anonymous access to forms. I mean, why not have individuals have access to a form that's secure, that's not going to have them enter your SharePoint, but still get data into your SharePoint? We can do that with our online forms. What about mobile devices? What if I have a manager that wants to get everything on their mobile device? We can do that, or even just any employee. We can do all that with Nintex Forms. How do we do that? Well, before I jump into that, when I add a new item to this list, remember, that's a SharePoint form. Can't customize it very easily, not easy to consume on a mobile device. However, if I have Nintex Forms, I simply go to my list, which is this leave request, and if Nintex Forms is installed, I simply click on that once, and it pulls the metadata from the list and populates a canvas and generates a form based on my layout. So no longer am I creating a form first and then trying to figure out how the workflow works in the back end. We're creating the workflow first. We're saying, let's create this, let's make this work the way we want it to, and this is going to be the presentation we give to our people that are going to view it. Now let's go over a few pieces of this form that might interest you. And believe me, ask any questions you'd like. We can go into any technical pieces you'd want to because Vadim is on the call. We can answer just about all the questions you have. This is HTML. Because it is HTML, it's completely flexible. I can move around my logo or my header. If I want to change this, I could right-click this, go to my settings, add my own image URL so that you don't have to be stuck with just Nintex Forms as your image. Assuming if you would like to do that, you're more than welcome to. However, you might want to change that. We also allow for templates, so custom templates for your organization to be able to do whatever you want and make that as simple on that as easy as we need to. You can also double-click any text box and go to the control settings. I can start changing formatting, maybe solid lines to groovy lines, whatever works best for me, resize, move things around. Maybe I want that bigger or smaller. I even have an undo button. I can go back and undo all the different things I just did, saying, I didn't want to make that change, I want to change that. There's even a preview. You can go to a preview setting and view your form as you've been looking at it, whatever version that is, and we'll get to that in just a second. On the left-hand side here, you have controls. I can drag and drop my controls that I want to add to the form. It already has those controls on there based on the workflow that it was created, but maybe I want to add an image to this. I can simply drag and drop that, configure it how I need to, and go from there. Let's undo that and not worry about that. Here's all the form controls, yes, no's, repeating sections. We have labels, anything we need to add to that. We also have some form controls, external data columns, managed metadata. Those are available to us here as well. We can add those to it. Here's that workflow diagram. I could add that to the form as I had before. Also, I have list columns, attachments on behalf of end dates, start dates, whatever I need to, simply drag and drop those controls. Very similar to the Nintex Canvas for those who've used the Nintex workflow before. Also on the right-hand side, I can add rules. So if there was a scenario where you had a situation where you want to add something, you can add that, and then you can add the rule to make it do what you'd like it to do. The rules engine is very, very powerful. You simply add, do what you need to do to the rule, and move on from there. We do have one quick question while I'm doing this. Let me address that while we're going through. Kathy has asked, can you access Nintex Forms within a SharePoint document library as well as a list library? Vadim, you want to answer that?
Yeah, definitely. So, yep, you can definitely go to a document library in SharePoint. There'll still be the Nintex Forms button on the ribbon, and you click on it. What that actually does is allow you to customize the form for the document properties window, where you would normally see if you're uploading like a Word document. Once you upload it, you get that property window, and it just looks like an out-of-the-box SharePoint black and white type form. You can actually customize that with a Nintex form.
Perfect. Thank you very much. So the controls are on the left-hand side. I talked a little bit about the rules engine. If you have more questions about that, we can address that. But let's talk a little bit about how we're going to consume these. What you're viewing right now is the desktop version, viewing through a browser. But there's several different ways that we can view this form that pertain to the way that we live today in this society and how we do business. All of us have smart devices. All of us are viewing these forms in different ways. We actually provide you with different layouts. So how does it look on a smartphone? This is what it looks like. I have a layout that allows us to be able to view it. I also have the other versions of this. What would it look like maybe on a tablet or an iPad? This is what it could look like here. Maybe a Windows phone has a specific look and you want to create a sophisticated experience for that type of device. All of these different versions are available to you out of the box. The layouts are prepared. You don't have to write any code. You don't have to make any changes. You simply just create that view and you'll have that specific view available for anyone. Also, as I'd shown you the Nintex mobile app, the way that that's viewed is also available through Nintex Forms. So for instance, Nintex Mobile for Windows, Nintex Mobile for iPhone, they are available. When I open that up in this canvas, I now can make the changes that I'd like with this form for my app. When I show you my app in just a few minutes, you'll actually see this form. We've actually added it. It's brand new, and it's ready for us to consume. I'll even make a change to this description to show you that we did make the change and that it is live. We'll say this is test description. We'll go ahead and save that. And now when we save this and publish it, you'll be able to view it on your devices as well as I'll be able to show that to you as well. So we have different layouts.
Just a quick thing, there's a couple questions came in privately. You want to make sure you and Vadim are aware of them.
Yep.
So everybody, if you submit a question, submit it to all panelists. One came in from Steve Smith, said, we're considering SharePoint Online at some point in the future. Is this available? So is this going to be part of Office 365? The second question is...
Let me address that one first. Let me go ahead and address that one first. Yes, this is available for Office 365 as well. Looks exactly the same.
Do you have the ability with Nintex Forms to directly connect to external content sources such as web services, Oracle DB, or SQL databases?
Do you have the ability to Nintex connect directly? Vadim, you want to address that?
Yeah, I'll go. So in regards to web services, you have the ability with Nintex Forms to actually talk to those via JavaScript calls. So we can definitely do that. In regards to database or database queries, what we support are external data lists. So if you have BCS or business connectivity services configured in your environment and you had an external data list pointing to a SharePoint, to a SQL table, then you could definitely use like a list lookup control and look up to that SharePoint list, which in return will actually point to the database itself.
We had another question. Does the document library in SharePoint need to be a Forms library? Vadim, you want to address that?
Yeah, yep. No, it doesn't. It can be any type of document library. You can have Word documents, PDFs, Excel files. What you're doing with Nintex Forms is actually customizing the properties form for those documents.
Excellent. Excellent. And did we address Nick's question? We have a great need to call web services from Forms. Is this possible through Forms? Did you already address that?
Yeah, so I've mentioned that you'd be able to call web services through JavaScript. So, I mean, I've got examples of talking to the SharePoint User Profile Service, to the Nintex Workflow web service. So you can definitely do that through Nintex Forms.
Perfect. Perfect. Thank you. Please keep the questions coming. We'll stop periodically and we'll cover those things. Let me just finish off with this Forms demonstration, because what I'm going to do is show you something that we can do that most organizations can't, which is using Nintex Live, our Azure-based cloud platform, to extend your forms beyond SharePoint if you would like to do that. So everyone who's on the call, we invite you to bring out your smart device or use your browser that you have open today. Bring a browser up and be prepared to type in a URL. It's not going to be very long. It'll be pretty short. And what we're going to do is we're going to say, this is great. When we have a smart device or we have something we want to consume with these forms, it's great on a browser, on a desktop, but what if I want to let somebody else outside my organization get data back into my SharePoint so I don't have to reinvent that data? We can do that through through Nintex Live. What I can do is, here's Nintex Live. I go to my live settings. I publish to Nintex Live. What Nintex Live is, as I mentioned, Azure-based cloud platform where we can actually call up, SharePoint will call, grab that information and bring it back, and then what you'll have is you'll have a secure way to bring in anonymous data if you'd like. When I publish to Nintex Live, I have a couple options. I could lock this down to users in my organization. I could use People Picker, Active Directory, groups, whatever I need to. Maybe you have HR or an executive team that you only want them to view these specific forms. Someone would have to have a login information to view the form. If I want to allow for anonymous access, meaning anyone on this webinar, I simply click that and now I'm ready to go. What's going to happen is once I publish this form, it will allow me to produce a small URL that is case sensitive that you can put into your browser and you'll be able to access. And there it is. I'm going to go ahead and copy this, and I'm going to make it bigger so you all can see it. Here's my notepad, paste. Now, anybody who would like to participate, you should be able to view this form from your device. So bring your smartphones out, open up your browser, and this is case sensitive, so please type in ntx.lv, all lowercase, / the number 1, lowercase d, uppercase f, lowercase l, lowercase v, uppercase k, and uppercase f. And what you'll find is that in your browser, whether it is Chrome, IE, Safari, doesn't matter which version, because this is an HTML-based form, and because I published it to Nintex Live, not just to SharePoint, I can allow anyone on the call to not only bring the form up, you will see that same form that I just produced. You'll see the request for time off. Go ahead and put some information in there. Type in whatever you'd like. Maybe you need a time off. Maybe you need vacation. Maybe all the weather in the DC area was too much and you want to go to the Bahamas. Whatever it is you need to put in there, go ahead and stick it in. Submit that. Save it. And what will happen is in a few minutes, I will actually be able to view that in my SharePoint, and I'm going to show it to you. I'll leave this up here for just a couple more minutes. I'm going to answer this question that we just got in while we do this, while you all type in what you need in your browser. The question was, how does Nintex Forms handle attachments? An example is InfoPath embeds the attachments into the form, and if you need to do something, quote unquote, with the attachment like store in a separate library, you need custom code to extract it. Does Nintex Forms handle this any different or make it easier to route or redirect these attachments in some other manner? Great question. Vadim, I'm going to go ahead and let you answer that.
Yep, I'll grab that one. So if you think about what you're doing with Nintex Forms, you're actually building a form for a specific SharePoint list, document library, or a content type. And what happens is when you fill in one of those forms, it will create one of those objects. It will create like a SharePoint list item. So all the attachments that you actually attach to the Nintex form will become attachments on that list item. You can then use something like Nintex Forms to grab those attachments and move them somewhere else, or even have a workflow kick off on that new item and automatically embed those attachments into a task form or any type of email notification that you want to send out. It's a lot easier to handle attachments if you're using Nintex Forms.
Thank you very much. If you notice, what I've done is I've gone back to SharePoint instead, into the list instead of being in the forms generator. I just clicked on a new item. If you remember a few minutes ago, we had a SharePoint form. Well, now we've published it, and now we have a Nintex HTML-based form based on our layout, however we need to do that. If I added my information here now, it would kick off this workflow. But let's go ahead and look at if there's anything else there it is. We just took several. We had a couple different items here before, but now we have quite a few different things that someone does need a vacation to the Bahamas. Raymond was listening to me. I agree. I need one too. We have don't feel like working anymore. These are all very clever. Ooh. I'd like to get a root canal. That does, ooh, try our bacon inside burger. That's funny. So here you go. This is an example of one thing you can do with Nintex Forms and Nintex Live. We've really tried to make it as easy on you as possible. We want your users in your organization to have a more sophisticated end user experience, because not all of us are mechanics. We can't all work on the engine. We sometimes need to drive the car. And frankly, we're all consumers. If it's easy, we will do this. We will try things more. If it's not easy, we have probably a little bit more resistance to that. So this is an example of what you can do with Nintex Forms and how it works. I'm more than happy to share any other details, go into any other specifics on technical, but the demonstration is completed. We can answer any other questions anyone has. Mike, I'll turn it back over to you, and you can either open the mic up or we can do the chat. It's up to you.
Yeah, thank you, Galen. We know that it's about 2:36 now, so we're past the formal part of the presentation. We'd just like to, for the next 5 to 10 minutes, if anybody has any general questions they want to ask, to please share with us now via the chat, and then Galen, Vadim, and our team here at DocPoint will do our best to answer them. If we didn't answer a specific question or you think of something, you can feel free to reach out to us. The dan.curley@DocPoint Solutions. See at the bottom of that screen there. He's a business development executive at DocPoint. He'll be able to take all those questions. We'll do our best to get all the answers back to you by close of business tomorrow. It looks like there's a couple questions that just came in. Galen,
yeah,
do you want to address those?
I can go ahead and read them out here. Let's see. So I had the question about forms attachments from Nick. Is there an extra cost associated with leveraging the Azure-based cloud piece? There is not, Nick. That is free for anyone who purchases licenses and pays for the software assurance, which is the maintenance. You get that for free. Good question.
I think it's important to know, too, for those who don't know, when you purchase Nintex Enterprise Workflow with the forms in a production environment, you have unlimited development licenses. Many of our customers have asked that question, is they like the product, and if you have a number of internal resources, then this allows you to have a number of business users within your enterprise develop workflows, and then when they're ready to be published, send them over to the IT or the senior business users who validate everything, and then it can get published to your production site.
Great, excellent. We have another one here from John. Nintex can create a website to accept input. Well, that's not a website necessarily. Nintex creates a link that goes to Nintex Live. Nintex Live does not actually push anything to SharePoint, because the question was, how does Nintex protect our network from viruses and data files coming back to our SharePoint site? Vadim, you want to go ahead and address that?
So I think in that sort of scenario, you'd probably need to have some sort of software at your end that actually checks, you know, what attachments you are attaching. There's nothing in Nintex Forms itself that does any sort of virus checking. There's no way for it to tell whether you're putting some potentially harmful files or attaching them to a list item. So I'd say from the SharePoint end, you'd probably have to have some sort of process that checks for viruses and harmful software.
Yep, two things to note. Number one is you don't have to use Nintex Live. That's an option to you. So some organizations don't use that function. They just simply publish to SharePoint. Number two, the other piece of this is that Nintex Live does not push to SharePoint. SharePoint pulls from Nintex Live. The next question from Ron. Will all our 2010 workflows still work after upgrade to 2013 version? Yep. There's a migration path. You simply export and import into 2013. Good question. Another question regarding the workflows control that initiated an IM to the designated user. Is this tied to a specific config or version of Nintex workflow? What is the control name? Can't answer that. They would have to be Vadim.
Yep. So in order to send out those sort of notifications, those are basically based on task-related actions where you're trying to notify somebody or like a send notification. It's not tied to a specific version of Nintex Workflow. Nintex Workflow works, has the ability to send out those sort of notifications. You would have to have either a link communication server or Office communication server installed in order to be able to configure that part of Nintex Workflow to talk to that product and send out those notifications. You can also have individual users set up a user preference where they want to receive emails, link messages, or even like text messages or no messages at all. So you can definitely do that as well.
Yeah, this is Mike. I wanted to address Ron's specific question, and he asked about the upgrade from 10 to 13. In the older versions of SharePoint, a lot of organizations would do a lot of custom coding of the software, and as a result, when they went to upgrade, there'd be a lot of challenges. The beauty of using Nintex within the enterprise is that you're customizing the solution, but you're not custom coding the solution. So when you go to upgrade from 10 to 13, from 7 to 10, whatever it may be, in a sense, you're backing up and restoring it to the newer version. And unless if there's no custom code in that, it's a very simple backup and restore. Galen, do you want to? Oh, go ahead. John Vienna asked a question privately. How compatible is Chrome with Nintex? We are using Nintex 2010.
Yeah, no issues. No issues with Chrome. I use Chrome on my desk, and I use both Workflow and Forms. I have Chrome and IE. I do them both. I've also used Safari. It's not a problem. Okay, Antoine, how difficult do you see the migration from organizations that are already using InfoPath forms to using Nintex forms? Are there any significant technical differences to bear in mind? That is a very good question. I'm going to go ahead and default that to Vadim as well, and then we'll get to Nick's question next.
Yep, no problem. There hasn't really been any significant difficulties in doing something like that. You saw at the very beginning of this webinar, there was like a Venn diagram showing you some of the things that InfoPath can do and Nintex Forms can do, and where they can both do the same sort of thing. Where it comes to actually migrating from InfoPath to Nintex Forms, the best people to talk to about designing the forms that you've already have in InfoPath are the guys at DocPoint. They would be the experienced ones. They would have the hands-on experience to be able to actually show you how to do that and build those forms for you.
Excellent. Next question is, would I be correct in assuming that forms could be exportable with the same ease as workflows? You are correct. Yep, you are correct in assuming that. That's very easy. Romeo, is there a licensing model for Office 365? There is a licensing model for Office 365. There's a workflow and a forms product, and they are per user. We also have them in blocks, and we can do either all in Office 365 or a hybrid environment with on-premise workflow and forms as well as Office 365. So we can talk more after this call and talk about how that works out. Next one is, sometimes workflows abort with an error, but I can't find any info on the error. Where is the best place to look? Probably the reporting piece. Vadim, you want to discuss that?
Yeah, I'll grab that. Actually, one of the best places to look, well, the first place to look is the workflow history. In there, it should give you an idea of maybe what kind of error it is. If there isn't an error there, then you can look at the graphical view of the workflow history to just give you an idea of which action is failing. Next step would be to look at the SharePoint logs. Sometimes in the workflow history, you'll actually see that the workflow errored with a particular correlation ID, which is a GUID, big, long, alphanumeric string of text. You can copy that and then look through your SharePoint logs to see, what the actual error was and kind of give you a better idea of what's causing that. And also, if it's there are certain actions in Nintex workflows, like say the core web service, the execute SQL, Active Directory-related actions, CRM. Those types of actions actually have in their configuration an error handling section. So you can turn that on, capture the error, maybe notify somebody that the error occurred, or like by an email or something like that, and that will give you an idea of what the error was. That also allows you to capture the error and actually tell somebody maybe the server was down. They can then go and restart it, and you can build some logic into your workflow to retry that bit of functionality. And that way your workflow actually won't fail. Kind of make it a little bit more robust that way.
We've reached the end of our time. It's just about 2:45. So I want to thank everybody again for attending this webinar today. As a final point, I wanted to know that DocPoint Solutions, working with Nintex, has put together some very aggressive pricing. For those of you who have workflow and are thinking about upgrading to Forms, we can put together a very aggressive pricing package to help upgrade and get that bundled for you. We also have recorded this webinar. We'll be sending out a link to that as well. So those of you who want to share this with others, you'll be able to do so. And again, if you have any questions, Dan Curley from DocPoint Solutions will be sending out the email. Please respond to him with any additional questions that you have, and we'll do our best to get those answers back to you in the next few days. Thanks again for attending. Be on the lookout for additional webinar notifications. We try to manage your time and not offer too many of these webinars. We want to make sure that when we do offer them, they meet your needs. Again, if you have any questions, you can always give us a call directly. My name is Mike Radigan, Vice President of DocPoint Solutions. Thank you again, and have a great day.